Victoria Pearson, but you can call me V. And over the last couple of weeks, in my shorts, I've talked to you about being sad. I think I mentioned it in my last weekly vlog as well, that I was sad. And that has prompted so many of you lovely, lovely people to be messaging me on Twitter and sending me emails and all these sorts of things, asking me, am I okay? I wanted to let you know that I am okay. So this week I'm just doing a housekeeping sort of vlog where I'm giving you a little mental health update and letting you know what's going on with my mental health journey. Now, I have used that term a few times, mental health journey, over the last year or so that I have been vlogging about my recovery. And that is because it very much is a process, a journey. It is not a box that you tick off and you say, right, better now, moving on. Whether you're recovering from trauma, depression, addiction, running a marathon, having surgery, whatever, our progress on things is never linear. That's not how progress works. We don't just get a little bit better one day and keep getting better and better and better and better and better. Every kind of recovery process is a case of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but you're still moving forward. Our brains need time to process things, and so do our bodies, to be honest. If you've run a marathon, when you immediately finish that marathon, you're going to feel great. You've got all the endorphins, you've got your runner's high, you're on top of the world. The next day, you're going to get out of bed and think, oh, that's not too bad, actually. I thought I'd be a lot more achy than this. I can move around, I can do things. It's the day after that your delayed onset muscle soreness is going to hit and you're not going to be able to walk. But if you do run distance, then you know that that pain is part of the process of your muscles getting much, much stronger. And I think that's much the same with trauma recovery, recovery from depression, recovery from anxiety, all those sorts of things. So sometimes we hit a little obstacle and our brains need to backpedal a little bit and grab those coping mechanisms that we've just learned and see how they fit into this part of our psyche. And then we can move forward again. Over the last couple of weeks, I have found myself doing a lot of doom scrolling. And the things that I've been seeing are horrendous. And behind that awful sadness of seeing these horrible things, there is also anger on my part and frustration and helplessness that I can't actually change those things. Over the last few weeks, the pictures that I've seen coming out of Palestine and the videos that I've seen and the stories that I've seen have absolutely broken me, because average life expectancy in Palestine is 19. I have children older than that. They're still babies, okay? I can't wrap my head around that being somebody's entire lifespan. And I know that quite a lot of people in Palestine are older than 19, and that life expectancy age is so low because so many children are killed in Palestine, and that really doesn't make it any better for me. I've got all this frustration and helplessness because even though every piece of polling has shown that the people of my country are behind the people of Palestine, they don't want to see this genocide, they don't want to see this aggression, they want a ceasefire, none of our politicians are listening to that. And I've been there before as well, because I was part of people that were marching against the Iraq war. We weren't listened to then. Over 1 million of us marched and we weren't listened to. And lots and lots of people died needlessly. And we can see that playing out again. And I was feeling very helpless to stop that. I'm still feeling very helpless to stop that. There isn't really much that I can do. And that I find quite difficult, because part of how I deal with sadness and depression is think, right, what can I proactively do to make this situation better? In this particular situation, there isn't anything that I can do to make it feel better. And so I have found myself thinking all that I can do is bear witness to the tragedies that are happening, make sure that people know that these things happen, make sure somebody remembers these people. That's awful that that's all that I can do anyway, but I'm very sensitive to imagery anyway, and I've been very much struggling with seeing some of the horrendous things that have been coming out of there. At the same time, I feel a tremendous amount of guilt if I look away from that, because every time I do, I think, well, the people in Palestine can't just put their phone in a drawer and go outside and forget about it. And so I feel a lot of guilt for doing the same. I do actually think that that is misplaced to a certain extent. I do think that from everything I know about Palestinian culture, which admittedly isn't loads, I I really don't think that they would like us all to just sit here and be sad. They teach life, don't you know? And I don't think that anybody in Gaza would want everyone in the world to lose all of their joy. But at the same time, I do think that we have a real responsibility to be watching these things and to be calling them out. I don't think that I could live with my conscience if I didn't ask my representatives to call for a ceasefire. I don't think I could live with my conscience if I just look away and say nothing and do nothing. The weight of that is just too much. There's a sort of pat internet saying, to be honest, but I have found helpful recently, which is that when disaster and tragedy and awful things happen, we should look for the helpers, the people that are trying to make things better. And there is a lot of nice things, not nice, but there are a lot of helpers on the ground in Gaza right now. And I've seen some absolutely heroic behaviour from people that are younger than my own children, young men taking the shirts off their own backs to afford the women around them some dignity. I've seen people desperately trying to comfort babies amidst all this tragedy happening around them. The violence that I've seen is off the scale, but the compassion that I've seen is also off the scale. And I have found it very, very useful to look for the helpers, to look for the stories of hope within that community. And if there's one thing that the Palestinian people do really well, it's community. Those people are banding together, looking out for each other, looking out for each other's children in a way that I don't think I've ever seen before. I'm sure it happens in lots of war zones, but I haven't seen it before. And so that has helped a little. It hasn't helped loads. I am still sad, and I will probably continue to be sad. This video is coming out on Monday, but I am filming it the week before. And so we've got Remembrance and Armistice weekend coming up. And I'm pretty sure that's going to make me very angry, because when I was a child, my grandfather taught me a lot about the fight against fascism in World War I and World War II. He used to get me to learn war poetry, and he spoke to me about how important it is that people of my generation remember horror of war so that we don't repeat it. He told me that he thinks that when the people who actually were alive to experience World War II pass, that we will repeat those same atrocities again because they've moved out of living memory. And he told me that it was my responsibility, the responsibility of all of us, to actually mean it when we say never again. And so I know that when I see politicians who this week have been calling for more bombs to fall on Gaza, that have been calling for the destruction of Gaza completely, when I see those people trying to be solemn and pretend that they remember the atrocities of war, I am probably going to lose my temper quite significantly. And so this will be the very first year that I will be neither attending nor watching a remembrance service, and I find that very, very sad. As I said, my grandfather, he taught me about the horrors of war and genocide, and one of the things that he got me to do was to learn some war poetry. I'm not going to subject you to me reciting poetry, but the line that has been bouncing around my head, because these poems stuck with me for the last 30 years, the line that has been bouncing around my head the most over the sort of build up to this weekend had been, I think it was John McCrae's poem, In Flanders Fields. And the line in there where he says, "Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields." And so I find it extremely crass that politicians who are calling for supporting and funding a current genocide and have the gall to lay poppy wreaths at the cenotaph on Remembrance Sunday, I just don't think I can stomach watching that. I don't think I am big enough to contain that level of rage, that level of betrayal that people who parrot the phrase never again are so happy to continue to perpetuate these atrocities. And yeah, so one of you actually commented on one of my videos and said to me that I should try therapy because I've been sad for a day. I think that's a little bit of an overreaction to being sad for a day, especially when you're sad in response to events that are sad. It's not that nothing has happened. I am sad because what is happening is sad. Therapy can be great, don't get me wrong, but it isn't for everybody. Trauma sufferers in particular find certain kinds of therapy can actually be more harmful. And also, we don't live in a place where therapy is freely available, on demand, the kind that you need, the kind that you want straight away. So it isn't always helpful to tell somebody to try therapy just because they're sad. So I won't be trying therapy this time, I'm afraid. I am sad because sad things are happening. And if I wasn't sad, maybe then I would need therapy. As I say, although nothing has changed, nothing has got better, I'm starting to feel better. What I did was I gave myself a day to just indulge in it and be depressed. I sat around under a blanket being grumpy all day, doing some knitting and muttering to myself about how awful everything is. And then the next day after that, I forced myself into doing some exercise, which I hate to admit it does really, really help when you're feeling depressed. Didn't change anything, but I felt more able to deal with it. And yesterday I spent some time looking for the helpers and saw such brilliant things, such amazing community, such compassion from people who have lost absolutely everything. And if that doesn't give you faith in humanity, then I don't know what will. And then today I've woken up and I have remembered that we only sink when we stop kicking. And so today I shall spend the day just kicking so that I don't sink. And eventually things will be better. The important thing that I have to remember is that in a mental health journey, sometimes we have to take a detour, but that doesn't mean that we're back to the beginning again. Just because there has been an obstacle on my path that I've had to go out of my way to go around and it has slowed me down, that doesn't mean that I'm back to the start of my journey again. It's still progress, even when it doesn't feel like progress. And if you're struggling a lot with all of the horrible things that are happening in the world and everything just feels too much and it's too overwhelming, remember that this is part of the journey. That is a normal reaction to the world as it is now. It's not a happy place at the moment, and so it is understandable if you're not feeling very happy as well. Be kind to yourself about that and know that it will end, even if it doesn't feel like it will end. Mental health issues like depression make us feel like we've never been happy before and we will never be happy again. But that is just a lie that depression tells you so that it can perpetuate itself, so that you will sit in a little huddle and feel weighed down by it all and not be able to kick anymore. I promise you it will pass, it will lift, and we will keep going. Join me next Monday for my next vlog. Once again, no idea what I'm going to be vlogging about. It will probably very much depend on my mood, let's be honest. If I'm not feeling it next week, I'll read you a story or something instead of talking about how sad I am, okay? I will be here anyway, every morning in your shorts, taking a great big deep breath, letting you know how I'm doing that day. I try and list the things that I'm grateful for over the last couple of weeks. I haven't always managed, but we will always take a deep breath together. I will also be here on a Witchy Wednesday doing a little intuitive card read for you. I would love to tell you that I would be here on Terrarium Tuesday to show you Chaz and Dave, but I keep forgetting they exist. That shows that they're doing really well though, right? Until my next vlog though, you have yourself a magical week.